Well, you know you're living in strange times when you and lots of people you know are glued to what's happening in a meeting of central bankers. Forget Netflix, forget celebrity big love in the jungle at first sight, because yesterday was rate hike day and we were all watching the Jerome Powell show.
I will begin with one overarching message. We at the Fed understand the hardship that high inflation is causing. We're strongly committed to bringing inflation back down, and we're moving expeditiously to do so. We have both the tools we need and the resolve that it will take to restore price stability on behalf of American families and businesses.
How, dear Lord, has it come to this? Yesterday was momentous because it saw one of the biggest Federal Reserve rate hikes in recent history, 75 basis points, the biggest raise since 1994. A simpler, happier time. So we all know what happens, right? Jerome pumps the rates, the market loses its mind and dumps hard. Well, no. The market's rallied on the news. As I record this, BTC is above 20k. Stonks are up. So what gives? Well, firstly, if you've been following us in the past few days, you'll have heard me say that the market had begun expecting that 75 bip rate hike. The market hates surprises as much as I hate surprise parties. So when Jay Powell does what they expect, they are content. However, the big reason is because of what Jerome said in his press conference. It seems as if he took a 100 bip rate hike off the table for future meetings. Yep, that is how desperate the markets are. They will rally knowing that, at worst, they can expect 75 bips going forward. That, my friends, is called copium. Now, I should point out that it was just a month ago at the previous FOMC meeting that the Fed said that 75 bips was not being actively considered. That is how fast things change in today's world. On top of this, the Fed also released projections at the meeting that showed they expect to raise interest rates by at least another 1.75% over the course of the next 4 meetings this year. That could take rates to above 3.5% by the end of the year. Now, whether that is going to have the desired effect in actually bringing down inflation without crashing the economy, the mythical soft landing, is unlikely. Unfortunately for the Fed, and sadly for all of us, they are way behind the curve. Inflation is near double digits, and historically it has been really hard to rein in inflation this high, this early in a rate hiking cycle, at least without tanking the economy. On top of this, many of the most recent inflation drivers have come from the supply side. Oil prices, supply chains, war, famine, pestilence, and death. So, that's the macro backdrop. In crypto-specific news, not much appears to have changed on the Celsius front, apart from the fact that founder Alex Mashinsky has broken his silence, saying, quote, "We are working non-stop. We're focused on your concerns and thankful to have heard from so many. To see you come together is a clear sign our community is the strongest in the world. This is a difficult moment. Your patience and support mean the world to us." Now, the hope of many is that although Celsius has a liquidity shortfall, functionally insolvent, Alex and friends do have enough collateral to cover their obligations. Balance sheet solvent, in other words. If the latter is the case, then it could be possible that all users will be able to withdraw their funds once the liquidity shortfall has been plugged. Now, of course, no one really knows the full extent of Celsius's collateral apart from Celsius and those restructuring lawyers they hired the other day. Moving on, the Three Arrows Capital saga also continues, or should I say, the plot thickens. According to numerous counterparties of the firm, they have not been able to reach the relevant people when contacted about margin calls. Now, this is contrary to a tweet from co-founder Zhu Su yesterday. Perhaps they're in negotiations with other relevant parties and looking for a resolution to this saga, But one thing's for sure, we are going to be hearing a lot more of this in the coming days. We have to hope that the contagion will be stemmed. However, it really depends on who has exposure to 3AC. There are many counterparties involved, and given the swirling rumours, some are having to come out and explicitly state that they don't have exposure. But, as we saw back in 2008, rumours of exposure can lead to a liquidity crunch in the markets. And back then, the government stepped in to bail the degens out with taxpayers' funds. I should also point out that this 3AC collapse is eerily similar to the long-term capital management collapse back in 1997. LTCM was a massive hedge fund that was highly respected in the TradFi space. It had maths PhDs and Nobel economic laureates running it. But, alas, the arch-geeks fell victim to their own hubris. And, given the exposure to other hedge funds and counterparties at the time, LTCM was also bailed out. It's all detailed in a great book called When Genius Failed by Roger Lowenstein, an apt title if ever there was one. The crypto equivalent title, by the way, Gigabrain Money Drains, is waiting to be written, and trademark that title before I do. Now, whatever way 3AC goes, we won't see a taxpayer bailout this time, and to be honest, we don't expect it. As I said in a tweet yesterday, this is an important learning experience for the crypto sector, and redemption can only be found if those involved, which, let's face it, is all of us, come out the other side more prepared and better positioned.